Welcome to College Volleyball Weekly on volleyballmag.com, powered by P1440. Thanks for clicking or tapping in. Now here's your host, Rob Espero, also known as Rob on the Mic.
We have our Coaches Consortium for College Volleyball Weekly here to talk about the action in week 2. And let's just call it the Coachella Music Festival of volleyball that happened this last week. 42 total matches. We had a total of 12 through Thursday, but then came Friday and Saturday, which gave us 32 matches. So let's start off with, wow, AVCA Showcase in Fairfax, Virginia, Jay. Comments on the talent and competition that you saw?
Yeah, so we had the AVCA Showcase, as you mentioned. We had NJIT, we had USC, and we had Stanford come into town. And although NJIT and us obviously didn't play each other, we crossed over the matches. I thought there was a couple of big takeaways from this weekend. One, Stanford's really good. And when Jalen Jasper's having a good night and they pass well, they're really dangerous. Their new libero, Louis, is doing a real nice job keeping them in system. I thought that Bischoff did a nice job distributing. But Beatty, I thought, and Rotman did a real nice job of improving throughout the weekend. Now, I know St. Francis beat them earlier in the week. I'm not so sure if that was just kind of the first match jitters, kind of getting things out. You're on the road, you're kind of figuring things out, and St. Francis just being at home and being comfortable. But for my take, Stanford's a team that maybe not in the top tier, but they're definitely in the conversation for down the road. If they continue to improve, I like what Prescia's doing in the middle. I thought the other real big takeaway was NJIT's for real. And if you're overlooking NJIT because of the name, you are doing yourself and your program a disservice. They are a very good run program. They've got a couple of pin hitters, a brand new German opposite, 6'7" lefty who just has a whip of an arm. And Jimeno on the outside, the kid who plays for the Spanish national team, man, that guy's a real spark plug, and he runs really good high swings. He's a huge spark plug for them. And their setter, the little Puerto Rican guy they've got in there, he is doing a real nice job of feeding it to the right people. So if you sleep on NJIT, I think you'll find out after this weekend, you're going to be really hurting at the end of that one. The other one was USC. Is USC rebuilding? Is USC kind of checking out what the freshmen can do and then maybe inserting some other guys that are veterans later on? I think that remains to be seen, but we'll see. I think later on we're discussing a little about that, so I'll leave that part up. So that's my thought. I thought the weekend was really good. We had a great turnout, great fans. ESPN Plus did a fantastic job of televising these for us. And so we're just really excited to get the year underway. And, hopefully next week will be another barn burner.
I just want to put some names to some of the athletes you mentioned when you're sharing, but it's Julian Messner. I guess he's a 6'7" opposite from Berlin, Germany. And the setter I believe you're referring to is Roque Nido from
Yep.
Puerto Rico. So,
yep, he is really good.
So I'm going to bounce it over to I love this name, the Raising Cane's Rainbow Warrior Invitational. I'm going to go Dan's way on this one because I know he's watching Hawaii taping that they are going to be coming to your house this week. So any thoughts on what you saw this weekend at the Raising Cane's Rainbow Warrior Invitational?
Well, ultimately, I think you saw another East Coast team, Harvard. They got a couple good wins out there, and then at times were certainly challenging Hawaii. They beat Grand Canyon in 3, beat Emmanuel as well. And then I was curious with Grand Canyon. I didn't watch a lot of that, but kind of where those pieces are, and kind of from seeing them last year, I think they're going to get better as the year goes on. I think that's always a tough trip and a tough venue in terms of that. But Hawaii's Hawaii. I think Colton went down a little bit, but that didn't change them. They plug, Anastasia in, I think it is, on the outside, and they're still kind of in the same pattern and doing some really good things. And I got to break down a lot of film, but Hawaii's the deal. That's why they're number one right now. They got a ton of pieces, a setter that's getting used to the tempo they're running. You got Rado and one of the best liberos in the country, and so ultimately they took care of business like they should at home in terms of that stuff.
Great evaluation there. Jay, anything to add on to the Raising Cane's Rainbow Warrior Invitational?
Yeah, I watched Harvard. They scared me. They're pretty darn good. They're running really fast. Stavertlik is doing a fantastic job running that offense. I think he's a senior now. And they got these two new middles that are both doing really, really nice things and causing fits on the other side because they're up early and they got good arms and they're making you have to think twice about, just releasing and going out to a pin. So Harvard, I think, impressed me the most out of all the teams out there this weekend. Obviously, Hawaii is Hawaii, and Dan's absolutely right. They got some of the best players in the country in certain positions. It'll be, a race, I think, with them and BYU and maybe Santa Barbara there in that upper tier to see who can pull it out.
All right, let's go to our third tournament of the week of Coachella Music Festival Volleyball, the A6 UC Santa Barbara Invitational. Dan, we'll go over to you because one of the big matches was the first big upset in the nation involving a MIVA team, McKendree over Cal State Northridge. Any thoughts on that match or anything about that tournament?
Well, I think McKendree kind of showcased, again, where they're at right now and how they're playing. I think Serrano, their setter, does a fantastic job with that group. And basically, they've kind of got most of all the pieces returning for them. And they don't play scared. They're confident. They know where they're at. They're coached very well by Nikki in terms of what they're doing. And I think they probably ran out a little bit of gas in that third match against Santa Barbara. I think always the toughest thing is like a team like McKendree just doesn't have the depth maybe as some of the West Coast teams, but you saw their front group is, taking down Northridge, playing Long Beach, super tight the whole way in terms of where they're competing, and probably just ran out of a little bit when they got to Santa Barbara at the end. But impressed with McKendree. I think they're a top 15 team for sure in terms of where they're competing. You're going to see them continue to make strides throughout that year. I think on the flip side, I'm curious where Northridge is at, you know what I mean, and kind of what they're going to do. And, they were in their rankings initially. Are they kind of like SC in terms of rebuilding and kind of putting themselves in a spot? And kind of where do they develop on down the year? And then Santa Barbara, of course, is like everybody's predicted. I think they're close to that top tier. I think as the weeks progress, they're going to get challenged by a couple other Midwest teams. So how do they respond to that coming in this next week, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But ultimately, that tournament's always good in terms of competition.
One of the things you did mention there was about Santa Barbara. They didn't have the same lineup for any of their matches, and they dominated. Any comments on the depth of the Gaucho team?
Go ahead, Jay.
If you're not playing the same lineup against some of those teams that they had this weekend, and you're still winning in that kind of fashion, that says a lot about what's going on. I'll comment a little bit on Santa Barbara because I have some thoughts. All of our recruiting streams over years kind of overlaps with other teams. And in years past, we might fight with Penn State and Ohio State over some teams. In recent years, I know Dan and I are going after the same guys. Last year or so, I've been really combining a lot of kids that are also looking at us and Santa Barbara. Santa Barbara's got a ginormous roster. I know that I don't think all of them are listed on there, but there are a number of kids that are really high quality that are choosing to go to Santa Barbara. And so that just says a lot about Rick and the support that he's getting. But when you don't have the big guy like Chavers that you can just kind of chuck a ball up and go, hey, get us out of trouble and we can move on. But you have other guys in there that are able to be in system a lot more often. When Santa Barbara's in system, they are super dangerous. I'm not sure that over time their out of system swings are going to be proven successful in a long stream of things. But if they're in system, if you can't serve them and get them out of system, they're going to be really good to watch. So Santa Barbara is a good team. I'm excited to see what they can do because Rick's been there for a long time and he's done some really nice things with that program. And since when Santa Barbara is good, it makes volleyball fun because they're one of those fun old school teams that everybody has folkloric stories about. But yeah, I'd like to see Santa Barbara do something this year and make a little noise.
Excellent. Let's jump into our last topic here for our College Volleyball Weekly. Parity across the conferences. We saw a lot of upsets already just in week number 2. St. Francis defeating number 7 Stanford, McKendree defeating number 13 Northridge, UC San Diego defeating number 11 Loyola. Number 6 team of Lewis taking my home team in their house, number 8 UCI, and then GMU, Jay, your guys taking USC, and NJIT taking USC also. Let's talk about what's happening across the nation. Even though it's early on, we're seeing some really quality volleyball. We'll go over to Dan first, then we'll go to you, Jay.
I think it's just a continuation of what you've seen the past, 5, 6, 7 years. Do you know what I mean? I think There's a lot of great volleyball players across the country, and you're continuing to see programs elevate and have that parity across the board, where whether it be Jay's team at George Mason or now NJIT. I played NJIT last year. They were good. And we went to their house, and they've got some good players, and Danny's doing a nice job. And so I think as over these years, when we started to kind of expand the tournament and teams started to play each other and had to break out of their mold, it helped the game grow. Do you know what I mean? So it wasn't kind of pigeon here or going here. And so I think this is a byproduct of that over the past 4 or 5 years. And you're just seeing, better matches early in the year, and it get harder and tougher for teams, to just walk in and say, oh, hey, I'm UCLA. I'm going to win this match just because I'm UCLA. You know what I mean? In terms of that. And so, which is great for the game. It's great for recruiting. And so it's exciting to watch as a fan. Teams are coming into other places, and they're going to have to bring their A game to kind of compete at the level they need to. So.
All right, Jay.
Yeah, no, I absolutely echo those sentiments. And, you see the volley talkers around the world, mentioning, oh, well, that team, that normally they're going to go out and beat the heck out of that team. It's just an off weekend and this and that. And the reality is, no, it's not. It's not that USC is bad. It's that everybody else is getting better. And we've been talking about this, like Dan said, for the last 5 to 7 years. When the Big West and the MPSF split, it opened up a vacuum of matches that both conferences had to fill. And now with some support from those programs to be able to travel a little bit more, you're seeing them take more chances and going out and playing other teams in their gyms, which I'm sure they wanted to do in the first place. But when historically it's been always East Coast and Midwest teams going out to the West, and, there are a number of teams that were successful over these years, Dan's team being one of them. But it was usually the West Coast teams would beat the Midwest and East Coast with the exception of a couple teams. And then everybody goes, oh, the West Coast is always the best conference. Now it's not the same. And Dan's right. It's great for recruiting. There's a lot more kids out there to choose from. Kids are seeing now that you don't have to go to the West Coast in order to be successful and play for a good program. You can also go off and play pro, even though you go to a Midwest team instead of a West Coast team. So there's just all these things, that these combinations of little things and little quirks that are allowing the rest of the country. And kudos to the administrations for funding these programs correctly, so they can go get more kids, so they can do more recruiting trips, so they can give more scholarships. If it continues this way, it's going to be really fun to be a part of, to coach, to be a part of, to play. And if you're a fan, man, these are awesome times. That's for sure.
Right. One of the things that I get to look at, particularly being the role that I'm in as a commentator or an announcer, is I look at the areas where your talent is coming from on all the rosters. And you're seeing it from different pockets all over the United States, whereas before it was kind of hugging the West Coast, some pockets in the Chicago area, the Midwest, and in Wisconsin, and then Maryland and Virginia. But now that's spread over to Florida, Arizona, Texas. It's great to see where that talent's coming from. And the work that you guys are doing to find them, these hidden gems in these areas. So kudos to the coaching staffs. Let's go into our final segment here for College Volleyball Weekly. But your College Volleyball Weekly superstars. Pick your 2 players of the week. And we'll start with Dan.
All right. Now, that's a tough one. Like, Gardenia has to be one of them. The guy, I think he hit over 600 in 2 matches at home and was, 13 for 16, 11 for 19, something like that. He was, pretty good. You know what I mean? In terms of that. And so hitting for a high clip and with 2 sweeps over Penn State at their house. I think the next one's tough for me because, ultimately we have our guy, but I'm not going to – you can't call your own guy out. You know what I mean? And so – Coonan was good for us for the weekend after the weekend before. So, but the Santa Barbara one's tough because, again, they played such a slew of guys in that tournament. You know what I mean? And Deweese playing in the outside, and so I don't have the stats in front of me. I do know kind of maybe a John Dietrich from Purdue Fort Wayne. They were missing 2 starters. They played a couple Conference Carolina teams, and I think he had a career high for them, 40 kills over 2 nights or something like that. And so. And missing both those guys, that was a guy they were going to lean on as a freshman. And so that was certainly some good production from him in terms of that. And I'd be curious from Jay, it'd probably be Jasper maybe. I just don't have Jasper's numbers, but I got to imagine his numbers were pretty good. over the weekend out there in terms of that. So
Yeah, Jasper in his matches on the Friday were really good. We held him to about a 130 average on Saturday,
Okay.
so I'm not sure I would put him in that category yet. When he's on though, he's super dangerous. You know, I'm with Dan. Obviously, you don't want to mention your guy, but I really like what Hayden Wagner did against USC. He hit over 500 and had about 40 some odd swings for the night. So, but if I'm going to pick two other guys, I'm going to pick Fisher from St. Francis. He hit over 500 in the win against Stanford. One guy
Good pick.
took that program down, and that's really good. The question mark on Fisher is going to be, can the rest of the team step up and add some cushion for him? Because if he's the only guy, he's going to be super tired by the end of the season. The other person I've got two that I want to talk about. One is Wildman for Penn State when he went out to BYU. He is going to be an absolute force, and I know that he's only a sophomore, but man, oh man, is he super fast. He's got a great arm, and I know they didn't beat BYU, but he was a guy that was definitely pushing for some kills. The other one is Alvaro Jimeno at NJIT, the outside hitter. 6'9" outside hitter, plays on the Spanish national team. Going to be a contender, probably, or someone to discuss for a player of the year type candidate, depending on how NJIT does. But man, is that kid good. He's a super fiery competitor. He's a spark plug. Those are probably the guys that I would mention this week.
Great calls. And you know what? You guys didn't have to worry about naming your own guys. You stole my thunder because I wasn't talking about Hayden Wagner and Ryan Coonan, so now I have to go to my backup plan. So with that, I'm going to go to the unsung hero. I'm going to go with Gage Worsley, Libero at Hawaii. Because, you know, the stats, the digs, they don't tell the whole story, in my opinion. He keeps Hawaii in system. And when Hawaii's in system, that is one scary team explosively because they're detonating balls all over the place. But also, one of the highlight reels on the Hawaii broadcast, you see Worsley react to one ball like a laser hit by Camden Gianni, digs it with his left hand. Next play, Gianni hits left pin, goes middle back, digs it with his right hand. Perfect pass, put away. Like, that to me is a stud. He is just good, getting good reads and getting good balls in play for Hawaii.
I've had the pleasure of coaching that kid for the junior national team. I know Dan's worked with him as well. That kid is a truck, and there's very few brick walls that I would not expect him to break through. And he is going to be a force for not only Hawaii but for USA Volleyball for a number of years to come. The kid's a true competitor.
Yeah. My second guy, and like I said, you guys stole my thunder with the Coonan and the Wagner steals. But so I have to go to my lock. That would be Gabzilla or Gabby Garcia Fernandez. Again, you know, he had a huge offensive night on night one against Penn State, and not so great on the second night. But Gardini stepped in, but he was doing it from the service line and defensively. So, man, that boy's got a big arm, and you know, BYU is going to be really good if this is their early season form.
Yeah.
So with that, I want to thank you, gentlemen, for our Coaches Consortium of Intelligence on college volleyball in week 2. I'm looking forward to connecting with you guys again next week, and good luck in your matches, and enjoy the rest of your days.
All right, thanks.
And now, back to College Volleyball Weekly with the volleyballmag.com crew.
Welcome back to College Volleyball Weekly on volleyballmag.com, powered by P1440. Next up on the show, Hawaii outside hitter Colton Cowell after Hawaii's hot 5-0 start for the 2020 season. All right, got senior outside hitter from University of Hawaii, the #1 ranked Rainbow Warriors, Colton Cowell. Thanks for joining volleyballmag.com.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, Colton, great start to the 2020 season. Currently 4-0. Can you share your thoughts on your team's play so far this 2020 season?
I'm really happy with how much we've been able to progress since the preseason in these first 4 matches. We put a lot of time into getting stronger in the off season and developing our physicality and our ability to play up at the ideally the top of the antenna, knowing that we're going to come up against more and more physical teams such as Lewis and Irvine as the season progresses, and BYU as well. So we have kind of our sights on those opponents, and we're looking to hopefully match their physicality and bring different element to our style of play.
In the offseason, the Volley World chatter was that Rado was going to be the primary gun for the Rainbow Warriors. And then obviously you stepped in for the role of the Flying Dutchman in SVT. You come in as the Flying Hawaiian, or dare I say, Mr. Maui Wowie, who's now led the team offensively 3 of the 4 matches so far. What's elevated your play?
Just understanding that this year will be different for me, and I've had, fortunately enough, a lot of incredible leaders in terms of upperclassmen that have gone through this program before me, and it's really allowed me to kind of incorporate the specific aspects that allowed them to be successful. I've been trying to incorporate that into my own style of play, and whether that's bettering my ability to manipulate the ball or getting stronger in the weight room, I think that has led to the success early on.
Now, from barely missing the 2018 NCAA tournament to being the 2019 NCAA runner-up, what's the team's mentality this season in the locker room, given the new faces and the new look Rainbow Warriors?
Yeah, like you said, we were the runner-up last year, and that was an incredible team to be a part of. Literally, that team last year was almost machine-like in terms of efficiency. And so this year, I think with the new personnel, I think we sort of bring almost a little more joy to the court. I think playing a little more, so we play a little more freely, like more so kind of just embracing it and really soaking in the atmosphere of the crowd, especially at the Stan Sheriff Center, and enjoying just getting the opportunity to play volleyball with each other because we love the sport. And that's kind of led to our success, I think, is that we're enjoying every opportunity we get to compete on the court.
And finally, you guys are heading out to your first trip to Chicago to take on the MIVA powerhouses of Dan Friend's Lewis University Flyers and Loyola Ramblers. What are your thoughts as you get yourself and the team ready for these upcoming matches?
It's going to be cold. You know, we're traveling from a very subtropical climate to Chicago, and we know that that's going to be not only a time change and a long flight duration, but the weather's going to be different as well. So there's a lot of different variables that we're going to have to adjust to. And not just that, we're playing against, you know, another powerhouse. Lewis is an incredible team, and they've been dominating the MIVA for many years now. And the same thing with Chicago. Their head coach, Mark Holtz, he's great. I got to work with him, or I got to be coached by him this summer at the Pan American Games. And he's a great guy. He's brilliant, and he brings a lot to the table. So, and in addition, Dan Friend, of course, as well. You can't leave that guy out of the conversation when you're speaking about great coaches, right? So it's gonna be a fun trip for us, and we're really looking forward to you know, rising to the occasion and enjoying the process of getting better and playing some high-level volleyball in a new spot.
Well, Colton Cowell of the University of Hawaii Rainbow Warriors, thanks for taking time with volleyballmag.com. And I wish you the best of luck this coming weekend, and look forward to seeing you at UC Irvine.
Thanks for checking out College Volleyball Weekly on volleyballmag.com, powered by P1440. Be sure to follow volleyballmag.com on the web and social media.